Title: How a Stoic Loves, Ancient Wisdom for Modern Relationships.
Have you ever loved someone
so deeply that the fear of losing them started to consume you? Not just the fear of them walking away, but the subtle, daily fear that maybe, just maybe, you care more than they do. That maybe, your happiness is no longer entirely your own. It's held hostage by another person's actions, mood, or attention. That fear is ancient, and Stoicism has had an answer for it for over 2,000 years. But before we dive into how a Stoic loves, let's pause, because this video may not be what you think. This isn't about becoming emotionally distant or cold. Stoicism, in its purest form, is not about being emotionless. It's about understanding which emotions serve us and which enslave us. So, I ask you this: what would your love life look like if you no longer feared rejection? If you could give your heart freely but not desperately? If you could love without losing yourself? Watch this video till the end. Not because I need you to, but because what you'll learn might actually change the way you love forever. Let's begin. The philosopher's dilemma. In the busy streets of ancient Rome, a man named Epictetus walked with a limp. He had been born into slavery, endured cruelty, and yet, he spoke of love with a clarity most people never reach. A student once asked him, "Master, should a Stoic fall in love?" Epictetus didn't dismiss the question. He didn't laugh. He leaned in and said, "Fall in love if you must, but know what you're doing. Don't confuse desire with destiny or attachment with connection." That's where we start. Because modern love, it's full of confusion. Today we swipe, we scroll, we ghost, and we chase. We fear being alone, yet we fear being known even more. And that's where Stoicism enters. Not to tell you to abandon love, but to remind you how to love rightly, love without attachment. In Stoicism, there's a concept called apatheia. It doesn't mean apathy in the modern sense. It means being undisturbed by the world's chaos. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic writer, once wrote, "Receive without pride, let go without attachment." Imagine if you could do that in your relationships. What if you could enjoy your partner's presence deeply, but also live without the fear of their absence? This isn't about cold detachment, it's about freedom. Love in the Stoic sense is not possession. It is appreciation. It's being present with someone without needing to control them. It's about saying, "I choose you, freely and fully, but I do not need you to complete me." Because need is the seed of suffering, the fire within. Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, described anger as a temporary madness. But in love, the madness doesn't always look like rage. It can look like jealousy, control, manipulation. We see it in the person who texts 100 times because they weren't replied to fast enough. In the one who stalks their ex's social media, trying to find closure in digital breadcrumbs. In the one who turns love into a battlefield of tests and punishments. The Stoic says this is not love. This is ego wrapped in fear. True love, as the Stoics saw it, must be free of compulsion. You must choose your partner each day, not trap them in your expectations. You must let them be who they are, not who you need them to be to feel safe. You are responsible for your emotions, not them.
That's a radical idea, isn't it?
Amor fati, love your fate. There's a Latin phrase central to Stoicism, amor fati, love your fate. This is the Stoics' approach to heartbreak, rejection, even betrayal. It says, do not just accept what happens to you. Embrace it as necessary, as part of your path. Imagine going through a breakup and instead of saying, why me? You said, thank you, I needed this. It sounds impossible at first, but think of the strength it gives you. If you can love even the painful parts of your love story, you become unbreakable. The Stoics aren't teaching you to feel nothing, they're teaching you to feel wisely. The inner citadel. Marcus Aurelius believed in something called the inner citadel, a fortress within your mind where no pain, insult, or loss could enter. When you love someone, it's easy to hand them the key to your citadel. You let their opinion define your worth. Their moods become your weather. Their love becomes your oxygen. But the Stoic says, keep your citadel. Love them, but don't give them the power to destroy your peace. Your thoughts are yours. Your reactions are yours. Your dignity is yours. And when you keep those things sacred, you can actually love more purely, because your love is not born of need, but of strength. Practicing Stoic love daily. So what does Stoic love look like in the modern world? It looks like choosing your partner, not needing them. It looks like listening, not reacting. It looks like giving without keeping score. It looks like walking away when respect is gone. not out of coldness, but out of self-respect. It looks like saying, I love you deeply, but I don't depend on you for my happiness. That's mine to build. When they leave. One of the hardest Stoic tests is this. Can you be okay when they leave? Seneca once said, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Think about that. How many nights have you imagined being left? Being replaced? Being unloved? And how much of that was real? Stoicism invites you to test that fear. To say, if they leave, I will feel pain, but I will not lose myself. I will survive. I will grow. I will not beg to be loved, because I love myself enough not to. The art of argument, Stoic, calm in conflict. Picture this. Your partner says something sharp. Maybe they didn't mean it to hurt, but it hits you in just the wrong place. Your chest tightens. Your thoughts race. You're ready to fire back. Now pause. This is the Stoic moment, the test. Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. In relationships, conflict is inevitable, but suffering, that's optional. And the Stoic way is to become the eye of the storm, not by avoiding conflict, but by not being consumed by it. When you argue, ask yourself, is this about truth, or is this about being right? Am I responding, or am I reacting? Will these words bring clarity, or just win the moment and lose the relationship? A Stoic doesn't suppress emotion. They regulate it. They pause. They choose their words, and sometimes they choose silence, not as withdrawal, but as power under control. Premeditatio malorum, preparing for love's trials. The Stoics practiced a mental exercise called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Before a journey, a Stoic would imagine storms, delays, robbery, illness. Why? Because imagining adversity makes you stronger when it arrives. So what if you applied this to love? What if you mentally rehearsed the hard days, the arguments, the silences, the jealousy, the distance? Not to become cynical, but to be ready. To understand that love isn't a fantasy. It's a choice made daily, even when it's difficult. Imagine waking up each day and quietly thinking, my partner may be distant today. They may forget something important. They may fail to meet my expectations. And then you choose to love them anyway. You expect humanity, not perfection. And because you've already imagined the cracks, you don't shatter when they appear. That is resilience. That is Stoic love. The mirror of projection. One of the subtlest traps in relationships is projection. You feel insecure and suddenly you suspect your partner is losing interest. You feel guilt and now you're suspicious of their loyalty. You carry a wound from years ago and without realizing it, you expect them to heal it or reopen it. The Stoics ask you to look inward first. Marcus Aurelius wrote, if someone does wrong, the harm is to themselves. Your only job is to respond with justice. So before you accuse, pause. Before you judge, reflect. Before you blame, investigate your own mind. Ask, is this truth or is this fear talking? Is this them or is this me? Relationships become toxic not from conflict but from unexamined minds. Stoicism calls you to self-awareness before all else. The moment you do that, you change your relationship, not by changing your partner, but by changing how you show up. Love is not control. Control is the death of love, and yet many people confuse love with control, schedules, behaviors, expectations, rules. They believe that to keep love, they must cage it. But the Stoic sees this as folly, and in turn, you attract the kind of love that isn't based on drama, games or emptiness, but on presence, peace and mutual respect. Raising the next generation, Stoic love for children. Imagine a child watching you, not just when you're kind, but when you're tired, frustrated, when you're arguing with your partner, when you're heartbroken. What are you teaching them about love? The Stoics believed that true philosophy begins in the household, and that how we love our children shapes the next generation of thinkers, leaders, and lovers. Musonius Rufus, a Stoic teacher, once wrote that children must be raised not just with affection, but with character. He said, we do not learn virtue by lecture, but by example. So what does Stoic parenting look like? It teaches responsibility, not entitlement. A Stoic parent loves their child enough to let them face discomfort, to learn consequences, and to struggle because struggle is the soil where resilience grows. It offers presence, not indulgence. A child doesn't need endless gifts. They need a calm, steady presence. A parent who listens, even when they disagree. A parent who apologizes when wrong and leads by integrity, not fear. It models love without conditions. Not, I'm proud of you if you succeed, but I'm proud of the character you're building no matter what. Stoic love raises children who do not chase applause, but virtue, who do not break when the world is harsh, but bend, grow, and rise. When love ends, loss, grief, and the Stoic heart. Now we arrive at the place most people fear the most, the end of love. Maybe they leave, maybe you do. Maybe life makes the decision for both of you. Death, distance, change, time. The pain is real, but the Stoic path does not abandon you here. Seneca wrote, "What need is there to weep over parts of life? The whole of it calls for tears. Grief is not weakness. It is evidence that you cared." The Stoic does not deny the sorrow, but they refuse to be consumed by it. You are allowed to mourn, to miss them, to feel the empty side of the bed, to remember their laugh and ache. But the Stoic does not drown. They stand in the grief and say, "This is the price of loving deeply, and I would pay it again." That is courage. That is strength. That is a love that leaves you stronger, not smaller. The rebuild, becoming whole again. After love ends, you face a mirror, not just of who they were, but of who you are without them. This is where many people spiral. They chase rebounds. They numb with distraction. They try to win the breakup. But Stoicism invites something else entirely. Rebuilding. Rebuilding is not revenge. It's not reinvention for others to notice. It's quiet, internal, intentional. You wake up and ask, what values did I lose in that relationship? What parts of myself did I silence? What lessons has this pain carved into my soul? And then, brick by brick, you build something truer. Not out of bitterness, but wisdom. You get stronger, not harder. Kinder, not colder. And above all, you become someone who doesn't need a relationship to feel whole, but who chooses one wisely when the right time comes. Letting go with dignity. Letting go is one of the hardest Stoic practices, not because it's complicated, but because it demands the opposite of what pain tells you to do. Pain says cling. Text them again. Prove your worth. Revisit the memories. Stay angry. Stay hopeful. But Stoicism says, bow to the truth. You loved. It mattered. It ended. Now let it go. Not with resentment, with reverence. Marcus Aurelius put it this way: the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. So when love ends, don't become bitter. Don't close your heart. Don't mock the person who once held it. Instead, let go like a Stoic. Quietly, honorably, without begging, without burning, without losing your soul in the process. That's real power. Re-entering love with eyes open. One day you'll meet someone new, and you'll be tempted to fall the old way, fast, full of fantasy, filled with the sweet blindness of first affection. But you've walked the Stoic path now, and that means you love with your eyes wide open. You ask, do they live by values or just charm? Do they bring peace to my life or just pleasure? Do they respect boundaries or test them? Do they want me or do they need to be saved? A Stoic does not fall in love. They walk into it, with self-awareness, with honesty, with care. They do not rush. They do not perform. They do not pretend. And when they love, they do so fully, but without abandoning their center. That kind of love isn't flashy, but it lasts. The Stoic legacy of love. So what does it all mean? It means that love is not a fairy tale. It's a discipline. It's not a high. It's a practice. It's not just about how you feel. It's about how you choose to show up. Every day, to love like a Stoic is to speak with honesty, act with integrity, detach from what you cannot control, own your reactions, set boundaries rooted in respect, let go when the season ends, and stay true to your own values, always. Because in the end, the greatest Stoic love story is the one you write by how you live, because Stoic wisdom is timeless and more relevant now than ever. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.